Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Valerie Rose Show. I'm your host, Valerie Rose, and today's episode is going to be extra special. Now, I know I always say it's going to be special because it is, but this one is historical because we have the first male guest here on the Valerie Rose Show, and he has a story to tell. Aside from what I'm going to share with you, he is an awesome individual. We've reunited after over a decade. He is like a childhood friend of mine, and we go way back. So a little bit about him is he's someone who has walked through dark chapters in his life, battling alcoholism, addiction, and the weight of trauma that came with it. And for all of those years, those struggles have actually shaped his life. Like many of us go through challenging things, and it's those challenging moments that help us realize the strength and the power that we have within us. And he's done that hard work to turn things around and truly reinvent himself. And today, he is living sober, focused, and committed to growing every single day. And that is why he is here today to share his story, his power, and to inspire anyone out there that may be experiencing these things that he's experienced and showing you that it's possible to transform your life for the betterment. And he's very passionate about speaking on men's mental health, which is definitely much needed because it's real, it matters, and personal development and mental health don't tie to a specific gender. So this conversation is going to be had today with my friend, Josael Zavala. So help me welcome him. Welcome. How are you feeling?
Nervous.
Really? You said you're like, wait, I was feeling, I was at peace.
Now that you said it, bringing it up a lot, nervous, but yeah, like you said, I'm here to talk about what I went through, my struggles, and how I overcame them. I overcame alcoholism, addiction, mental health.
Right.
I still kind of struggle with that, but it is what it is. I can control it now. I don't run to the bottle anymore whenever life gets lifey,
Yeah. I like that you say that phrase because I say that too. The life is lifing. And I love your vulnerability and you saying like it's something that you still struggle with because I think no matter how much work we put in, like there's always going to be some improvement that we're able to do. And you're definitely already past that point, as you mentioned, of going to certain drugs or going to the alcohol. Now you're finding different outputs. So my friend, take me back to the beginning. Like what started the addiction habits? And I know a lot of it we've talked before kind of stemmed from the party scene days. So how do you feel like that shaped the habits that you built that you now overcame?
Yeah, the partisan days made a big impact on my life. I started when I was young, when I was, through 15,
Yeah.
16, I started going and just being surrounded by it. I went from going to EDM clubs, all ages, to being a club promoter for Mexican clubs. And that's where, you see a lot of drugs and
Right.
just being offered. At one point I would always say no.
Mm-hmm.
But then it got to the point where I'm like, if you could do this and drink more and party more, then let's do it.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I crossed that imaginary line that I couldn't get out of, come back from, and it made my life a living hell. Right?
Right.
The surrounding, the fake friendships that came about. But thank goodness today I have a fellowship that's, has my back, and I have my family back.
And I love that you have that support system. And I know you were very popular too, like in the party scene, in the club scene. So because at that time, which I could relate to because, we were both in the party scene. And I feel you too with the whole knowing a lot of people, but just because you're popular and everybody knows you and they're trying to get something out of you doesn't necessarily make them your friends. And sometimes when the drugs are gone and the alcohol is gone and the party vibes is gone and the botellas and everything, it's like they're not there to be there for you in a different way. So at what point did you say like, okay, this partying is fun? Because, we had our moments where it was a good time. It was fun. But at what point did you say like, you know what, this isn't fun anymore. And I'm starting to get over it and it's starting to affect me.
That came about when I was drinking alone. I would live with my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and I would be in his garage, and I would have a handle of vodka um, right next to me, and at that point, I wasn't partying. I would just go to work and come back home and drink all night,
Mm-hmm.
wake up, do the same thing over and over, and I barely had money to party, right? Alcoholism took away all that money that I had. I would just work just to feed my addiction, my alcoholism. And it was, it got serious for me when I would be in that situation and nobody wanted me around. Nobody would talk to me because I would just drink, and yeah, I could start on Friday, party with you on Friday, but Saturday and Sunday, I'm just staying at home and drinking, So I would say that was maybe towards the end of my alcoholism where it's like, this isn't fun anymore. You know, I really, really, I'm really deep in this hole that I took myself in.
So as you were mentioning, like it became such a habit that you would be partying on Fridays and then Saturday and Sunday just kind of isolating and having drinks with yourself. Would you say that there were like specific points where specific circumstances that were happening to you that made you want to go to the bottle? Like was there certain challenges with people or just like your own insecurities or just lifing that made you want to be like, you know what, today I want to be by myself and I just want to have some drinks.
Yeah. What happened was I would be very,
And
my
whatever you don't feel
family. No,
comfortable
no, no, you're
sharing,
good.
by
You're
all
good.
means, please don't. Yeah,
You're
don't
good.
feel, yeah.
I would make my family disappointed in me. And the only way that I would forget about that was drinking,
Okay.
right? I would lose jobs left and right. And the only way that I knew how to forget about it was drinking, right? It got to a point where even that wasn't helping anymore. I would drink and then again the problems were still there. The disappointment was still there, right? I just didn't know what else to do, right? Because like I said, I would get a job and then lose it within a week or two because I'd be drinking or calling out Mondays. As an alcoholic, you don't go to work on Mondays. That's just the way we do it
Okay.
for some
So you're
reason.
still getting over the weekend.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. So, with that cruda,
Yeah. And
and
that's no
the
fun. You
only,
don't feel good with that.
exactly,
Yeah.
people say, oh, I know how to fix that. We'll just have a drink. For me, I just have another bottle
Hmm.
and then it's off to the races one more time. Right.
Yeah.
So,
And when you would say a bottle, because it's different and alcoholism is on different levels, right? And there's different types of drinks that get us. So was it like typical beer? And you're right. Like I think in the Mexican culture too, or the Latino culture, they say like, pa quitarte la cruda te tomas más, like you'll have another
yeah.
one to have it go away. Now you're like at this balanced level. So what was your go-to drink? And if it was something stronger than beer, would you say that it affected you more because it was a little bit more potent?
My go to drink was bottle of Jameson
Okay.
if I had money.
Okay. That's whiskey, right?
That's whiskey, Irish
Okay.
whiskey.
Ooh, man, that's strong.
Yeah. Neat. So it wouldn't be cold. No
Okay.
ice because it waters it down.
Okay.
Right. That's my mentality when I'm in that
Mhm.
situation. And if I didn't have money, it would be pop off vodka, right? I don't know if you remember the Jungle Juice days
Yeah,
where,
I do.
you know, we would get a handle of pop off vodka and
Yep.
just dump it in a tub. Well, I was dumping it down my throat,
Mhm.
right? Because it's cheap.
Yeah.
You know, beer for me wasn't, it was good, but it gets you bloated,
That is so true.
and
Yeah.
then you're running in and out of the restroom.
Mhm.
So I needed something that would hit me quick,
Yeah.
right? So that maybe a couple four locals for a pregame. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
You
Those
know,
back in the day, those four
yeah,
locals were strong.
four locals would on a Friday night.
Yep.
I would drink three or four before I would go to downtown Santa Ana.
Mhm.
And that was that for a couple years. But it's for me, it was whiskey. I can have a beer with you, but after that beer, I'm like, dude, take out the bottle.
Mhm.
Let's go for a bottle.
Yeah, and
You
thanks for sharing that cuz you even taught me about whiskey. I didn't even know like what neat
know?
is and all of that stuff. So that was something that I definitely learned. And it's just so powerful to see you sitting here now. And I know we've talked like behind the scenes of about your transformation and, you know, people could see you and never know that you gone through these things. It's like if you know type of thing. And something that really stood out to me was going back to the bottle to numb the reality, because sometimes it's really hard to face the shit that we're going through, but the only way we're going to get through it is if we look at it like de frente, look at it face to face and say, you know what, I'm going through this, I don't like it, and I'm going to do something to fix it. And now you're over here on the other side and you have fixed that. So you should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you, my friend.
Thank you.
And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to feel what it is that you're talking about and seeing that hope. And I think that's a very key thing, that you're now building a life that you love. And when you decided to put the bottle down and face the reality, what did that look like for you? Like, first steps that you had to take to start overcoming your addiction?
Yeah, it was. I could tell you my. How do you say it? My. Gosh, my the last day that I was like, all right, this is getting really out of hand. I was my rock bottom, right? My rock bottom. Everybody has different rock bottoms.
Right.
Maybe some lose their job and they're like, that's my rock bottom. That wasn't for me because I knew that my resume is good, so I could just get another job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe someone's rock bottom was their family wasn't there anymore. I don't have kids. A lot of people lose their kids in this addiction,
Right.
and that wasn't the case for me because I don't have kids. My rock bottom was, after health issues and being 9 months sober at one point and picking up the bottle one more time, it landed me with, you know, $0 in my bank account once more. I was laying on my mom's couch, withdrawing from alcohol, having the shakes. My mom asked me, "Is there anything I could get you, mijo?" You know, at that point, I didn't want her love. I didn't want her cooking. She put a home over my head. I didn't want that. I just asked her. I looked at her, and I still remember to this day. She was literally walking out of the house at the door, and she was on her way to get me that uh that drink that has a lot of electrolytes.
The Pedialyte or the
Yeah,
Suero.
the sweater. Yeah, she was out to get me a sweater. She said, "Can I get you anything else?" And I was like, "I just want a beer. Can you just get me a beer?"
And how did she respond to that?
She's like, "No." And that's the first time I ever asked my mom to help me with my alcoholism.
Yeah.
And that was my rock bottom, right? So I picked up the phone, a 1,000-pound phone on July 8th of 2023. And I called Kaiser, and actually it was 2024, sorry. July 8th, 2024. Called Kaiser. The response was, "Can you call back tomorrow?" And I straight up told them, if that's the case, you will never hear from me again. Because I knew that I was not going to make it another night. They said, "Okay, we'll put you through detox. Let us find you a bed somewhere." I was like, anywhere. I'll go anywhere. I'll go out of the county. Not because I was born and raised in Orange County.
Right.
So I was like, I'll go out of the county, and they put me through College Hospital. I was there for detox 7 days. At first, I was very scared, because I knew what was to come. I've used to do the program, the 12-step program. I've gone to meetings because I have 3 DUIs, and I knew about it. I just didn't want to do it because you had to face your traumas, what you went through. But
Kind of like reliving everything again and
yeah,
playing it back in your mind to not go back and stay there, but to go back and say, how am I going to overcome this?
yeah, and us men don't talk about it. What we did as children, what we do to others, because in our culture, it belittles us. It makes us less than a man. And I had to overcome that. My dad always told me, what do you know about stress? What do you know about this? If you haven't lived through it. The reality is, I've gone through it. I've put myself in that situation. It might be different for some people, but for me, I've gone through it. because I know how to be in a room with people and smiling, having a good time. Deep down, I'm struggling. You know, you ask me, "How are you? How you doing?" I can tell you, I'm okay. You know, I saw on Instagram, get me drunk and ask me, "How you doing?" You're not ready for that conversation. You know,
Because the truth comes out. Yeah.
exactly. You know, and during all those days where I would be partying, no one ever asked me how I'm doing. You know, they would just tell me, "Just have a beer, dude." You know, I would always hear everybody else's problems,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes down to talking about mine, they wouldn't want to listen, right? So I never had that. But yeah, the July 8th of 2024, you know, I surrendered. Alcoholism won, right? So my dad told me, just go get yourself help so you can come back and enjoy life, and maybe one day you can have a drink again. That's not the case,
Mhm.
because if I have a drink, it's off to the races in a
Right.
heartbeat, right? So I mean, it
And as
is what
long
it
as you're
is.
happy, and you decide you don't have to have drinks to be able to have fun. There's so many other ways for you to enjoy life without having the alcohol. And what matters is too, like even down the line, if you did decide to have a drink, like it'll be like por tu propia voluntad, and you would decide like, hey, if I drink this, maybe I shouldn't because I'm fearful of going back to those old ways. Or you know what, maybe let me have that drink just to give it a try. But ultimately, you know that the choice is yours and you're now taking those steps to either stay away from it because you know the damage that it's done and you're still in the healing process because as you mentioned it was in 2024 so it's almost going to be 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this year it'll be 2 years and that is a lot of growth and I'm sure you found like new ways to be happy about life. But before we get into the new version of yourself, what were some challenges in life be lifing situations that cost you like relationships or your job? I know we were talking about having a relationship like with a woman. Would you say like that would have been that was challenging because of what you were going through? It was hard for a woman to understand and be able to help you, or losing friends and then rebuilding that relationship with your parents and being able to ask for help after you mentioned that they felt disappointed.
The relationship that I had with women
Yeah.
was I would use them to my advantage
Okay.
because I would meet them when I was in a drunken state or on a bender,
Okay.
and they would drink with me. But in my mind, it's like, okay, I met you at the after party, so you're one of them. You're
Yeah.
like me. But then, because I've met great women in the party scene, you know, in the
Mhm.
after parties, I've met single mothers there. But every time they were just like, "You drink a lot." I'm like, "Well, you met me this way.
Yeah.
Why don't you love me this way? You know, why aren't you dealing with it?
Mhm.
You know." So for me, I couldn't hold down a relationship because they wouldn't want that around,
And
right?
is it because, they would maybe wanna see a change in you, but you're like, "No, así me quieres, like, así tómame," type of thing
Exactly.
without not wanting again to be like, "Hey, okay, let me see what it is that she's saying and let me try to change." But at that point, it's because you weren't ready to change, right?
I wasn't ready to
Mhm.
change. I was not. It's like you said, you
Yeah.
know, you met me this way, you love me this way, right? And women don't want that. Women want, you know, someone that they could confide in. That wasn't me.
Mhm.
You know, I just got my license back last year after, thank you,
Congratulations.
you know, after 10 years of not
Yeah.
having one.
Mhm.
So a woman doesn't want that, right?
And there's nothing wrong with that, but it does put like these barriers like, hey, if you're going to go out on a date with someone now, it's going to be a little bit challenging for you to
Mhm.
get there because maybe, like the girl wants to get picked up by you, but now it's kind of like, hey, let's meet there or you come and pick me up. But it doesn't make it a bad situation. It just adds like roadblock after roadblock that you have to just keep overcoming these barriers.
Yeah, exactly. I would have these barriers up,
Mhm.
and and there'd be women couple women that would just look past that. You know, they would. Sorry, because there's been great women in my life,
Yeah.
great people in my life. You
It's
know,
okay. Like, it's nice to reminisce on those moments and you see, like, I love that you mentioned they look past that because that's good people right there, that they're not looking at it like, what can I get out of it? Getting into a club, getting to the parties, getting the alcohol, getting the drugs. It's like I see beyond the challenges that this man is going through and I still choose to be there because they saw something in you that made them want to be with you. And did you lose any women that you're kind of like, damn, maybe she's the one that got away? Or you
yes,
feel like things could have been better?
yeah. To this day, I think of her.
And that's where that reflective
To
moment
Yeah,
comes right now that
yeah.
I felt, okay.
To this day, I think of her. You know, and
Yeah.
it's crazy you say that because I have a new Instagram, which is the
Mm-hmm.
horror humanity, and
Yep.
that person popped up on people you may know, and I was like, damn,
Have you
you
ever
know,
tried reaching back
no,
out to her?
no, no, no,
Do you know if she's in a relationship?
no, but I just don't want that. You know, I know that if she is in a relationship, I would probably just bring more drama to her life, and I don't need her to go through that. You know,
Mhm.
she was a great woman,
Yeah.
right? She was a great woman. She is a great woman,
Mhm.
single mom, or at
Okay.
the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still see her through Instagram.
I think you should shoot your shot, my friend.
No,
And
no.
it's like if you feel like it's something that you want to do because you see it's like that barrier where you're taking yourself to the past and what's stopping you from reaching out to her because the worst that's going to happen is que te va a decir que no. And you're now the man that you are today. If she tells you no, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, "Okay, like I respect it." And like deep down like you tried, but for you to still think about her so much. She clearly left a really big impact on you. So, what were the things that she did during those times that left that impact on you?
She was there when no one else was. She was trying to take me away from that party scene.
Mm,
She would always tell me, dude, those aren't your friends.
yeah.
You know, let's go do something. Let's go out, to have dinner.
Hmm.
For me, I remember I would go out with her, but I had to have a Ford Local in me,
Hmm.
to get that liquid courage.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to have this conversation with her like how I am with you right
Yeah.
now, and yeah, it's very hard, right? If I were to
Right.
reach out, if I were to reach out to her, let me mandar a la verga real quick.
But you see, you're assuming, my friend, and that's
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
thing about assumptions is this situation can play like a million different ways,
Mhm.
But sometimes we want to go straight to the negative thought. But instead you can tell yourself, like, I'm gonna try to reach out, but let me think the best of the situation. And again, the worst thing that's gonna happen, I hope she doesn't have it in her heart to like mandarte a la verga, because that'll be pretty messed up. But I think you find your way. Like this is something that maybe you can. It's not something you can do al tiro, but it's where you're gonna want to sit back and think to yourself, like, okay, this woman impacted me in a positive way, in all these different feelings. Let me just try to reach out to her and try to put it in words. I love sending voice messages. So even her maybe hearing your voice and you telling her, like, she'll get the vibe because, like when I send voice messages, you can feel the vibe and the energy. So if she were to hear your voice, maybe she'll find it in her heart to be open to reconnecting with you. And maybe that can look like you guys being friends, starting off as friends, or even potentially having a relationship. So that's where you got to overcome that barrier of assuming. And you never know what she has going on in life. And realistically, the worst that it could get is her telling you no. But I can't assume that she'd be disrespectful to you, unless you guys left on a really, really bad note.
No, he did
No.
not.
Okay, you see, yeah.
Or she could just see who I am and block me, and then that would be the end of that, right?
Right. But you could always just, reach out and pour your heart out. And I think that's if you feel it in your heart and you feel it in your mind, just reaching out to her and letting her know how you feel after all of this time, letting her know that you've changed and acknowledging how much what she did for you during those times, how it impacted you, and telling her, like, girl, you right. Like, those weren't my real friends. I didn't need to have that drink to be going out with you. But even letting her know, like, if you ever want to reconnect and even be friends or catch up, like, I still think about you and I'd like to see what we can be. And if not, like, no worries, you know. And her receiving that, it's going to be a shock. It's going to be an emotional hit for her in a good way and in a bad way, because she's also going to be thinking about what she went through during those times, because I'm sure she was hurt as well, right? She clearly loved you to stick by you and be that person there for you, and trying to like jalarte más para acá to the good side, you know, and be over here than more over there. But I think you should definitely try.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe
This
one
is
day.
yeah. That might,
Maybe
this is
one
something that we're gonna talk
day.
outside of here, because I think there's
Yeah.
like really good ways for you to overcome it, and especially if you feel it in your heart. You know, it's like, you know, everyone wants to have that person that they could have as a best friend that they love and have that partner. And because you do have history with her and you continue to think about it, it'll be great to, you know, just reach out
Yeah.
and see where things go from there. But from there, knowing that you lost that connection with her, what did that look like at the end?
I ran straight to the bottle.
Okay.
You know, I ran straight to the bottle right when it happened. And I went back to the friends. Right. I knew I went back to where I was comfortable at that point.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I would say, I'm not the type of guy to be like, okay, this girl left me. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
ahead and mess around with another woman. But
Yeah.
I got depressed. I remember it was like July 4th weekend,
Mhm.
and I stayed in my room drinking. You know, it, and nobody knew where I was. My family didn't know where I was. I was just hearing the fireworks. I wasn't looking at them.
Mhm.
I fell in a deep depression.
Yeah.
And I only went out because my friend begged me to. He's like, dude, come on,
Yeah.
let's go. And I was like, all right. Even being there, I didn't want to be there.
Right.
Even there, I wasn't enjoying my drink.
Mhm.
I was just,
Yeah, because you were in a different headspace and hurt and going through those challenging and dark times. And how did you start to get yourself out of that? From feeling depressed, from going to the bottle, what were some new things that you had to do to become the Josael that you are today? Because you started shifting your identity at that point, you know, when you started to ask your mom for help and, you know, even experiencing the end of this relationship and being out with your friend where you're like, dude, you're like begging me to come out. So I'm going to be here for you, but I'm physically here, but mentally and emotionally, I don't want to be here and I'm not enjoying it. So what did you do to start getting yourself out of that?
talking about it. I have, like I said, I have a great fellowship
Hmm.
that has my back, and I know I could call any one of them, and they'll be there for me.
And how did you come across this fellowship?
The program, the 12-step program that I
Okay.
work
Yeah, walk me through that.
through my program.
Yep. Like, what does that look like in through those processes? And you know, just someone wanting to start, how would they reach out to a program like that?
First of all, you have to be willing. You know,
Yeah, you have to want the change.
yeah, you have to be willing to change, right? Facing trauma,
Mm-hmm.
talking about it.
Right.
I surrendered. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I knew about the program because I had DUIs. I didn't want nothing to do with the program because of the way that I was raised. So I had to overcome that. I had to overcome, the old traditional ways of not speaking about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I went, got help, went through detox, went through rehab, 42 days. I ended up in rehab. And
Okay.
when I got out, I don't know where else to turn, honestly. And
Mhm.
I went to a meeting, and I met a group of people. But right when I walked into that meeting, I heard laughter.
That doesn't feel like so welcoming. It
You
makes you
know,
feel uncomfortable.
I heard laughter,
Mm.
but I saw smiles as well.
Okay.
Conversations going on with
Yeah.
one another, hugs, giving,
Mm-hmm.
people hugging each other. And I walk in there and I'm like, that's what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
positivity. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I stayed and I listened. I heard a lot of people, and a lot of people gone through a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
much worse than I have, right? But at the end of the day, they're over here 30 days sober, 60 days sober, 90 days sober, and they're smiling and laughing
Mhm.
and talking about their traumas. And I was like, I want that.
Yeah. You
I
found
want it.
that safe
Yeah.
space where you can share your experiences and know that there's people that they too can relate and they have the ability to help and guide you. And you saw the hope.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I found a group of people that don't judge you,
Mhm.
don't judge your past, you
Yep.
know? It doesn't matter what you went through, it doesn't
That's
matter what
true.
you did,
Mhm.
because a lot of people have done a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Us men do a lot of crazy stuff to get the next drink, to get the
Mhm.
next drug.
Yeah.
And they don't care. You know, you get your driver's license back and they cheer you on.
Mhm.
You know, you hit 30, 60, 90 days sober and they cheer you on, you know. You get a year sober, they're taking you out to dinner,
Mhm.
you know, and it's crazy what this program has given me,
Yeah,
you
it's showing
know.
you a new way of life, new
Exactly.
way of enjoying life, a new way of communicating, helping you heal the traumas that you've gone through, not only from the addiction, but as you mentioned, like childhood and growing up. A lot of the Latino culture, especially for men, there's a lot of that machismo,
Yes.
so it's not expressing yourself. And, you live with that. And then you also have to understand, like, that's the way you were living for so many years. So you didn't know any better, but you also knew, like, well, I do want to talk about my feelings. I do want to talk about what it is that I'm experiencing because that's the way that you speak your truth. You let out the negative emotions that you're experiencing, and then you're able to get help. And I love that you're here today because you are taking a stand on that for men's mental health. And I think it's great for, the audience to hear it coming from a man because there's so many men out there that are still dealing with that challenge of, oh, I shouldn't be speaking about my mental health, or, oh, that's not even a thing. But you're here speaking your truth and letting them know, like, this is a real thing because you experienced all of these challenges and emotions and just situations overall. So it's nice that now you're with, is it men and women, or is it specifically men in this fellowship?
Men and women.
Okay, cool.
You know, there is meetings that only strictly men.
Okay.
And of course, meetings that are with women
Mm-hmm.
only, you know.
Yeah.
It's all depends on you,
Got
who you're
it.
comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
I have a sponsor, a great sponsor, that if I have a rough day at work, you know, and I could call him and he'll pick up and he'll walk me through it, you know, that's what gets me through the day,
Yeah.
you know. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. There's times where I just want to say, screw it, you know, throw in the towel, but I've come a long way,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And when you have those thoughts, what stops you from saying, you know what, I'm not going to throw in the towel. I'm just going to keep moving forward? What do you
I
think about?
I play the tape through, you know, because I could have a drink with you, Valerie,
Mhm.
right now, but my mind is going, you know. My mind starts thinking about the next drink.
Mhm.
You know, it could be a week from now. I could say to myself, "Well, I had one last weekend.
Mhm.
You know what? I could have another one
Yeah.
today. Or I have one this weekend. I could have two next weekend,
Mm.
then three, then four, then I'm straight to the bottle
Yeah.
once more." You know, I received my sacraments last weekend.
Okay, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And my sponsor was there, my family was there, and I had to go up there and drink brandy or
Mhm.
tequila, whatever it was. And I told my sponsor, dude, I think I'm gonna have to do this. He's like, you're doing it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
you know. Tampoco no te pases and
Mhm.
chug it, right?
Yeah.
And
That's a good key moment right there because again, he's shifting your mindset to, you're so used to looking at the alcohol in a negative way because of the experiences that you've had where for the most part in the beginning, yeah, it was fun in the early party scene days, but then over time it did become something negative. So you do have that fear-based mindset with it, which is okay because you know what's on the other side, si te pasas,
yes,
and you never want to go back there. But know that you have the power to control that. Like, if you don't wanna go back there, you're gonna stop yourself and remind yourself, like, "Okay, I'm not gonna go more than I should. I shouldn't because I wanna protect my peace. I wanna protect the progress that I've made." So even in that moment when he shared with you, like, "Okay, it's just one little one," and instead of saying like, "Oh, come on, man, like, just do it," he explained, like, you're doing this for a celebration of you. It's for something that's good. It's not because you guys are out like partying and getting
Mhm.
turned and all of that.
Yeah, I remember I walked up there,
Mhm.
and before I took the sip, the full sip, I looked straight down there, down that cup, and I was like, should I do it? Right then and there, I was like, should I do it? Is this the right thing to do? I took a sip, and as I'm walking back to the pew, I was like, this feels weird in my body. My mind was like, what have you done? Right then and there, I was like, what have you done? And I sat down next to my sponsor because everyone else was getting up to do
Mhm.
the communion, and he's like, don't worry, you'll be fine. I'm here for
Yeah.
you. Don't worry. My sister, after she heard
Mhm.
that I took a sip,
Yeah.
she was like, don't you dare continue. She was
Mhm.
very worried, very worried. She was one of the persons that saw my alcoholism at my worst.
Mhm.
I have many memories where I was a very horrible uncle, very horrible brother, son, and I remember her telling me at one point when I got my first DUI,
Yeah.
I think you have a drinking problem. And I said, I don't think so. I
Mhm.
think I'm just young and reckless, you know? He was like, yeah, I think you do. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
If you're in denial,
Mhm.
go right ahead and be in denial. But yeah, I remember I left with my padrino,
Mhm.
and she's like, please don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
Please don't continue drinking. Because my padrino, when we were young, he was the first person I ever got drunk with,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
And she knows that me and him could party,
Yeah.
right? So I left. I went to go have dinner with her, and I came back home the next morning. I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah. And how
You
did
know,
you feel when you woke up that morning and you just had this very big milestone? You're surrounded with your family, you're surrounded with people that support you and have love for you. And you did take a little shot and knew that you woke up. And I'm like, wow, you wake up and it's not like how you would wake up back in the day. What would you say is a big difference you felt that morning?
I felt happy,
Mhm.
and it wasn't because I continued drinking or I
Mhm.
didn't wake up with with la cruda or anything
Mhm.
like that. It's because I did something in my life that I've always wanted to do.
Yep.
You know, Getting my sacraments was a big thing for me,
Mhm.
right? My nephew, he's going through the whole Catholic school and
Okay.
everything and getting his sacraments,
Mhm.
and I wanted to do that for so many years. Even through my alcoholism, I was like, I want to do that. I remember, yeah, waking up happy,
Mhm.
got in my car. It was a beautiful Sunday,
Oh,
on
nice.
Easter. It was beautiful. And I waited until the business that I go to get meal preps was
Mhm.
open, which is they open at 11.
Okay.
So I had like an hour to spare, and I went down PCH. I cruised
Nice.
down PCH. And I'm not saying this because I'm on your show, but I was just thinking about your show.
Really?
Yeah, I was like,
Oh my goodness, that is so awesome.
it's gonna be a good one.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
I was like, I was gonna text you like, let's do it today.
Yeah. I'm like, "Wait, we gotta schedule it.
I'm
I
like,
don't even know if there's availability."
I was like, just do it today. Because
Yeah.
I honestly, I haven't felt that free in a long time.
Oh my goodness,
Because
that's such a powerful word, feeling free and happy.
yeah,
I'm
because
glad you got that to that point.
alcohol isn't what's ruling my life today.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I
So
felt that.
powerful. Doesn't it feel so freeing to say that?
Yeah,
Aren't you so proud of yourself?
yeah.
Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel the vibes. I'm so happy to know that. And as you're talking about like these different habits, what are some things that you do in your life now to focus on your personal development and your mental health and taking care of you?
Praying.
Okay.
I pray a lot every night. Mandatory.
Mhm.
You know, I see where I have been wrong for the day,
Yeah.
and the following day I fix it. Whether
Mhm.
that's with my coworkers or
Yeah.
with my family, I try to fix it. You know, I like I said, talk about it,
Yeah.
go to meetings when I
Mhm.
feel that I'm getting into my head a lot, into my
Yeah.
thoughts, and my thoughts are running, and
Hmm.
I stop and I'm like, I gotta go to a meeting. I gotta go and speak about what I'm going through, and that's what I do.
That's nice
You
because you're
know?
taking accountability for yourself. You're reflecting on, okay, what did I not like how my day went, or where did I think I kind of messed up today? And let me go ahead and fix it. And I think a lot of people don't get to that point. They're just like, oh, well, it is what it is. And that's how I choose to be, versus you really reflecting on your day to day life and seeing how you can be better. And it's nice to know that you now have these strong, healthy outlets and safe spaces to go to. And as you mentioned, right now, you're having a bad day at work, you're able to call your sponsor. You have these different resources to go to when you're experiencing challenging times. And you got me too. I'm your friend.
Yes.
I'm your friend. And you have your family as well. And I'm sure your mom and your dad and your sister must be proud of you. What are some things that they told you after seeing you, on your road to recovery?
That they're proud.
Yeah.
You know, I have four sisters. Three of them are half sisters.
Okay.
I Two of my sisters that came from my mom that are
Mhm.
half. I've also put them through stuff, even though they live in Texas. One lives in Texas, the other
Okay.
one lives in South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
My alcoholism reached them out there, you know? So it's crazy because I go to the gym now
Mm.
5 times out of the week.
Good for you. You see, that's a new
And
healthy habit you're taking
yes,
on, because the gym is not only like for us to look good, it's also like to feel good because you feel stronger, you feel more confident, and you push yourself to do something new. So that's good. That's another healthy habit you're doing.
yes. So I
Cool.
go to the gym and then they tell me, dude, you look skinnier. I don't see it.
I
People see
see
it.
it.
I mean, people see it. I don't see it. I'm
I
like,
see it.
where? I'm like, where? And people see your change in yourself before you see it.
Right.
You know, I don't see it at all, but people do. They tell me you're smiling different.
Mm-hmm.
You have life in your eyes.
Yep.
Because back then I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I could be sitting here next to you, even though I'm telling you that I'm okay. You can see that I'm struggling. You know, you would be able to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And today it's people say my eyes are filled with life and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And when life gets lifey, it is what it is. I
Right.
overcome that obstacle and I move on.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I know I wouldn't be able to do that. You
And look at you, like now you're really building a
know.
life that you love, and you're overcoming all of those challenges, and this is just the beginning for you. This is just the beginning for you in a very good way of you fully getting to where it is, wherever it is that you want to be in life. And I know you're gonna go to positive places because you've already been in those dark places and you're like, I ain't going back over there no more. So you're doing what you got to do to not go back. And I encourage you, like when you go home today, you say that you don't see the progress that you've made. But if you just take a moment to like look at yourself in the mirror and be like, damn, once upon a time I was here. And you might, you're gonna get in your feels, and it's okay to feel that way, to like just look at yourself and be proud of all the growth that I did. I know it sounds like a little cringe, but I swear if you just like stand in the mirror and even like set a timer for like 2 to 5 minutes and just really like look at yourself and just stare at yourself. Like thoughts will come up, feelings are going to come up, and you can reflect on, damn, like Josael from a decade ago would have never thought that he would be at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also journaling. If you feel like sometimes you might, if for whatever reason, let's say you call someone and they're not able to like call at that moment, or you feel like it's just you in that moment, being writing things down always helps stuff feel like we let it go and release, because we're always going to be with ourselves. So sometimes we got to find like those little quick fixes or activities that are going to help us like release what it is that we're feeling in the moment. But I definitely see the progress. I think it's just a matter of you just reminding yourself, like, damn, look at where I was once at, and here is what I'm doing today. So, what would you say are some good ways for men to just break down that stigma of talking to their mental health? Because you experience those challenges. And I would say, like, they just have to share and talk, but sometimes they feel like, no, I don't want to do that because I'm scared. So what would you recommend?
I would recommend asking for help
Yeah.
right away, because that's another big thing.
Right.
I need help.
Hmm. And being okay with it, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes men think like, oh, it's not okay to ask for help. So just finding those safe spaces, just as you did, I think it's really great. And I love all the things that you've been doing. And I look forward to your continued growth. And I know like we're going to keep in touch and you can come back to the show too and like talk about your journey. But my friend, we're coming to the end of today's episode and I have 3 questions to ask you. There's this thing that I do. You're like, you've been asking me questions the whole
I know.
time. So there's something that I do at the end. It's called Elevate in 60, where it's like I put together 3 questions and when I ask you the question, you have a minute or less to answer it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're like, ooh. Okay, the first one's going to be for someone who is struggling with addiction, aside from asking for help, what would you say is the first step to them if they don't know where to go for help? Would you say look up something on the internet, call a friend? What would your recommendations be?
Look up something, Google, right when you look up Google
Yeah.
and you put alcoholism, it'll
Hmm.
pop up,
Yeah.
numbers and meetings and stuff like that.
Okay.
Call your insurance. You know, insurance kind of played a big part of my, if
Yeah,
I,
that's a really great
yeah,
one.
call your doctor, let your doctor
Okay.
know what you're going through. Hey, I have a drinking problem. Hey, I have a substance abuse problem. Right away, they'll give you, places to go
Hmm.
or simple, just get in contact with me.
Oh, there you go. Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. Yeah, and I'm gonna make sure that I put like all your contact
Yes.
info down on the YouTube description so that people can reach out to you. And it's nice that you'll be able to guide them where it's best fitting for them because everyone's gonna have their different challenges that they're
Yeah.
experiencing. So thank you for that. For the second question, if you could go back to your younger self as this man today, what would you tell little Josael?
Don't do it. Listen to your parents.
Because they know they've experienced a lot of life.
Yes. And my parents had always told me, those aren't your friends.
Yeah.
Family's family. We're here for you.
Yeah. That's
You know.
nice. I like that. And sometimes, even when we think like don't do it, we never know. Everyone's going to respond differently to like consuming drugs and alcohol. And it's just like a door that one can open up and you never know what you're going to get. If, you're going to get addicted, if it's something that you do lifelong, if it's something that you try. So, yeah, definitely like don't do it. I like that advice. Number 3, if you could choose one word about how you feel after doing this podcast, what would it be and why? Because I know in the beginning you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know. Like there's always those natural nervios. But something that stood out to me and I didn't agree with, it's not anything bad. It's how you kind of felt like, oh, I'm not like kind of why should I be on the show? Like not seeing the value that you bring. And I kept telling you like, dude, it's not like these people that come on, you have to be a certain somebody. It's always about just being who you naturally authentically are and speaking your truth. And your story is one of positivity and transformation. So I know there was the nervios, maybe feeling uncomfortable and just speaking your truth for the first time, like on out in public in this way, like where it's going to be on YouTube and stuff like that. So how do you feel now?
One word?
Yeah.
One
One word
word.
and why.
Happiness.
Okay.
I feel happy, right?
Yeah.
Because I
I
never,
love that.
thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you. Now, I never thought I would be here, especially on a podcast, you know, speaking with you. We've gone through a lot,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen me at
Yeah.
probably not the best in my life, but what the party scene gave
Right.
me. The Yeah, the memories that came about
Yep.
when you told me like, "Hey, do you want to talk about this on the
Mm-hmm.
podcast?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yep.
Let's hit those memories up,
Yeah.
and open up that book one more time.
Right.
You
And you
know,
might have to do it like multiple times just for you. I know sometimes we want to keep things in the past, right? But sometimes we open up that book to reflect and be like, damn, look at how far I came. Or let me go back because I'm still healing from it. And now I can openly share my story because as you continue to heal through this, it's going to get easier for you to tell your story because you're going to have these men and even women that seek your help. And they're going to want to understand that relatability, right? And they're going to want to know, well, Josael, how can you help me? How do you know what it's like if they don't know you, right? And then that's where you have to open up that book and sit them down and let them know, you know what, here's my story. And let me tell you what I went through and the man that I am today that you see. So it's possible for you too.
Yeah, we well, I've gone through a lot, but my story might not be the same as the other person's story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You haven't seen things I've seen, maybe. You haven't
Yeah.
probably not have done the things I've done in my life, but I know the depression. I know the anxiety, the stress, you know. I know what it feels to hurt people
Mm-hmm.
that love you,
Yeah.
you know. That's what when we say in the program, look for the similarities, not the differences,
Yes.
you know, because I used to do that a lot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Valerie, you haven't seen the things I've seen, done the
Mm-hmm.
things I've done. What do you know about it?
Yeah.
You know, I used to put up that machismo,
Mm-hmm.
but then you hear a person saying, I was depressed, I was suicidal, because at one point I was suicidal. My ex found me to put my own blood, you know, and I used to think that, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait a minute, you were suicidal? I was suicidal.
Even though it's different circumstances, but I like that you find that relatability in the feelings because we all go through these different emotions. So just finding that bridge to their emotions really helps that connection be stronger
Exactly.
despite what it is that they're experiencing
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been in dark places,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
I just hope that somebody gets the message,
Yeah.
you know. If you have a loved one that you think is struggling,
Mm-hmm.
you know, send them this episode,
Yep. I
right?
that literally tied into I was gonna tell you, okay, if you have any final messages, like look straight into the camera and give your final message. And that was perfect. Is there anything else you'd like to add as like your final message for the day to the world?
Men's mental health is real, you know.
Yeah.
If you really need help, get in contact with someone as soon as possible,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Because we lose a lot of people in this world to addiction, to alcoholism, maybe to suicide because they just don't want to ask for help, don't want to talk about it, don't want to face their traumas in life. It's very important,
Mm-hmm.
for a person to do that.
Right.
I'm here for each and every one of you. You know, I'm willing to help anybody that needs help. Now, if you're a woman that needs help, I know a lot of women that could help you. You know,
Yeah.
if you don't like what I said, if you think that I might not be able to, I know a lot of men that have different stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what I would say. It's real and it's scary because it will take everything that you have
Right.
in a heartbeat. You know, in a heartbeat. But because of this program, I've overcame all that. I've overcame those struggles. You
Yep.
know,
And your willingness to change and you like taking that action and having that self belief of saying, I don't want this anymore. I want better. So I'm going to do what I got to do and go where I got to go to become a better version of myself. So I am so proud of the work that you've done. I appreciate you being here and I hope that it was like healing to you as well and that you felt like this was a safe space for you. And I'm sure anyone who hears this and needs that help, like they'll definitely reach out. And I'm gonna make sure to like even plug in different information at the on the YouTube description. And as we post these videos on social media, people are gonna be watching. So even if they don't reach out, sometimes it takes people to like see things multiple times and it resonate with them and them feel like, you know what, now I'm ready. Because a big thing you said it is like as much as we want a loved one to overcome their addiction, it always has to start from within. And they have to want the change to then be able to get that help and then other people help them. So I thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And we are now coming to the end of the episode. So thank you everyone for tuning in. This was a very powerful episode. If you know of anyone who is struggling with addictions or substance abuse, then please make sure to send them this video. Reach out to Josael. I'm going to go ahead and plug in different hotline numbers and resources that you directly know. So you'll end up sending me that
yes,
later. And ask for help. Know that it's okay to ask for help. And mental health and personal development is for anyone and everyone, and you matter. So I'll see you in the next episode.